Over the last decade or so, we have watched virtually every popular story, character, or piece of fiction systematically hijacked, reimagined, and rendered into a faint parody of what they used to be. All the while, nothing new is created. No new IP, no new stories, no new characters, only constant remakes and reboots, all reimagined into a pile of uninspired social engineering propaganda. And now that wave of destruction has reached the borders of Middle-earth. Now you gotta understand, J.R.R. Tolkien is effectively the godfather of all modern fantasy, with nearly every popular story you can think of tracing their inspiration directly back to Lord of the Rings. For example, Dungeons & Dragons, World of Warcraft, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, even Star Wars. I mean, every one of those is like directly connected to Lord of the Rings one way or another. I mean, Dungeons & Dragons directly made after that. World of Warcraft, elves, orcs, and entire dynamic coming from Tolkien's writings. The author of The Witcher admits Tolkien's direct inspiration. George R. R. Martin has been very abundantly clear he's a huge Tolkien fan, and Game of Thrones was literally designed as his version of Lord of the Rings. Now, he did it right, though. He made his own version, his own world, own story, Not many people seem to do that anymore. And even George Lucas in Star Wars. Again, he did his own thing. He was inspired by that legendary epic, so he made his own sci-fi epic. I mean, just about every nerd, geek, and lover of fantasy owes their hobbies, their interests, and for some of us, our life inspirations to the writings of Tolkien. He explicitly rejected the use of political messages and went out of his way to avoid real-world allegory. He explicitly rejected the canon-warping adaptations of ignorant, opportunistic movie makers, and he made no mystery of his disdain for soulless industrial tyranny. And through all that, he made something that was not just timeless, but universal. He gave the world a gift that has been loved by people all around the world in dozens of languages of all ages across generations for nearly 100 years now. Seriously, the Lord of the Rings was first published in 1950, something like that. And yet here we are, with a politically charged, canon-negating TV series parody of Middle-earth, funded by a billionaire corporation. And it's being championized by self-aggrandizing activists declaring that they are improving Tolkien's work. Well, I mean, they try to talk like, if you were watching this video, you've probably already seen all the other videos. You know the story. You got these actors out there who don't say a word about caring about Middle-earth whatsoever, but they can't stop talking about how great it is that they are in the Middle-earth movie. It's good now because they showed up, and all they want to talk about is themselves. And then you got the showrunners. These guys who, with their mouth, they like to be like, oh yeah, we love Tolkien, yet nothing they do resembles actually loving Tolkien. Nothing they've produced so far, or anything they've demonstrated to the public, shows any signs of them giving a damn about maintaining or respecting canon, or that they even know what the hell the story's about. And it's being released literally on the exact anniversary of Tolkien's death, September 2nd, as if celebrating their attempted erasure of his legacy. Right there on the anniversary of his death, we're going to produce this massive work that is completely ignoring all of his stuff. So it should be no surprise that many people from all around the world are rising to defend Tolkien and his legacy. And it will take a well-coordinated and sustained effort on the part of the people to push back on this well-funded corporate machine. Because it's not enough for a show to flop. You understand? They don't care. It's not about money for these people. Jeff Bezos could, spend $1 billion every year just on whatever he wants. It's not going to hurt him if this show doesn't make any money. To them, it's social engineering. I mean, yeah. Because if they were trying to make money, they would be putting surveys out, finding what people want to hear, and they'd be producing things according to what's popular. And they would know very quickly that what they're doing now is not popular. But it's beyond that for them. And we don't have to get political about this, okay? This isn't even about, what kind of message you think they're up to, or is this some sort of woke propaganda? It's not about politics. It's not about left or right. Or it's just about, can we preserve art? Can we let art exist for its sake? And can we not hijack other people's creative work for sake of propaganda? I mean, that's literally the definition of cultural appropriation there, okay? You're taking something that is a deeply entrenched cultural icon that was intentionally crafted to be a non-political, non-religious. I mean, there's no mystery. Tolkien was a very religious guy. But he went out of his way to not shove that religion down the throat of his readers. He kept real-world allegory out of it. And that's part of what made his work good, and it was made his work worth defending. I mean, if all Middle-earth was some sort of commentary on, European politics in the 50s and, whatever, right? But it's not what it is. It was not a commentary for the 50s. It's not a commentary for the 2000s. It was another world for us to go to. Another world for us to explore these abstract concepts of good and evil. But it's another world that had a canon. Had a lore, had a writing. I mean, if someone wants to invent a whole new world, to write their own fan fiction into it, they can do that, but you don't need to spend $1 billion to buy the Lord of the Rings label and then pretend what you're doing is Lord of the Rings. Anyway, my point here, the point of this video, is that there are things we can do. I mean, complaining about it, whatever. But there are things as fans we can do to push back on this. We don't have to just be on the receiving end of what corporate billionaires want to force upon us. And I think there's, if the fans come together strategically and intentionally, we can have control of the situation, okay? Who runs the culture, okay? Does the people or do the billionaires? That's what's at stake here. What kind of world do we live in? Do people with money, is amassing enough money all it takes to rewrite history? Or do the people get to have a say in that? So there's four things I think the fans can do. And the first two, a lot of them are already doing. It's everywhere. I mean, people pop up all across the internet, like myself here. They got their YouTube videos, or got commentaries, So the first two things to do is first push back on the nonsense, okay? The nonsense that what Rings of Power somehow canon. The nonsense that somehow what they're doing is anyway respecting the lore. It's not. And pushing back on they're already coming out with public attacks on fans, saying, "Oh, if you criticize us, you must be because of racism or whatever." That's nonsense. We all know it's nonsense. Okay, we've seen this tactic before. They use race swapping. They pretend it's for some sort of representation, but it's a shield. Okay, they're using minorities as meat shields so that it can't be criticized. Okay, they're putting innocents in the front lines of combat so that you can't shoot back at them without looking bad. It's just a tactic. Okay, realistically, if you just wanted to have black hobbits, black elves, there's so many ways you could do that, and no one would really care. I could talk about that more in a separate video, but we got to push back on their bullshit. They're lying to us. I mean, they're gaslighting us. I mean, look at the way they talk. I mean, going out of their way, trying to present themselves as like, oh, we care so much about the lore, but then it all falls apart. They say, oh, we want to go back to the book, but then they don't go to the book. They make up stuff that's totally wholesale, not in the book. It's like one side of the mouth, they're like, oh, we care about the lore, and this side of the mouth, well, there was nothing actually written about this part, so we're making stuff up to fill in the gaps. It's like they're making up their own stuff. Then they want the clout. They want the clout. They want the reputation of making a Lord of the Rings movie. But then they want to write their own nonsense. But if they wanted to write their own stuff, they didn't need the Lord of the Rings title for that. They would have been popular probably. All these people complaining would love them if they just made a fantasy show about elves and orcs. You realize that? Elves and orcs are not copyrighted. They could just make a great show about elves and orcs and monsters and dark lords, and everyone would love it. With a $1 billion budget, they can make an awesome show. And they can make up whatever they want. And it'd probably be fun to watch. But they couldn't do that. For some reason, they had to take the Lord of the Rings label, take Tolkien's name, and try to slap it on there. Well, when you do that, you're messing with something You're messing with someone else's work. You're messing with something that already exists. Okay, you can buy the legal right to use the name Tolkien, use the name Lord of the Rings. They may have that legal right, but legality is not the same thing as morality, okay? They don't have the moral right to rewrite history. And first, they can't just lie to us and say that they're... Look, if they just said that they were just, they're making up their own version, people would be much more forgiving. But they're trying to drive home this idea that what they are producing is in fact Tolkien when it's not. And that's the core of the fans' complaint. Everyone understands creative differences. Everyone understands the complications of adaptation. But what they're producing is not Tolkien. They're rewriting timelines, they're making up new characters, they're completely changing existing characters. There's nothing but namesake. They took some names. Beyond that, that's it. This is not Tolkien's writings. So that's step one. We gotta push back on the nonsense. Step two, again, it's closely correlated to step one, and many people are already doing this. Step two is counterattack with truth. Remind people of what Middle-earth really is. Remind people who Tolkien really is, what his writings really are. Lord of the Rings is not comic books, okay? Comic books have their origins in pulp fiction. They were just cheap stuff printed to sell to children. That over time, after rewrites and new ideas, certain patterns like Superman and Batman came out as popular, and over time they kind of created their mythos. And look, comic books are a very interesting thing. They're cool and they're a fascinating part of American culture. But that's not what Lord of the Rings is. Lord of the Rings was not just some story that was just written and rewritten until someone found out something else popular. No, it was a carefully crafted mythos. Okay, it was first of all, it was books. Okay, deeply connected to literature, to culture, to language, religion. It has those roots deep in human history, all of which is being ignored. All that's being ignored, and they're treating it like it's just some sort of like it's just another franchise. It's just some... That's not what it is. It's something a little bigger than that. And more importantly, and perhaps one of the most important things that need to be pointed out here, because these Rings of Power guys are like, hey, look, we have representation now. We're making the story more accessible. Really? Do you know what Lord of the Rings is? It's one of the most famous, successful books of all time. It's already been published in like 38 different languages around the world for nearly 100 years now. I mean, it's already very accessible to everybody. People in all cultures, all times, all ages have been loving this stuff. Oh, but now it's accessible? No, I don't think so, guys. Again, that's just... They don't know what Lord of the Rings even is. And they need to be told. It's already... Look, you don't have to... Not everyone has to love Lord of the Rings, but it is a great work. It is something... There's something that it is that has already been loved. It's past test of time. And we need to let people know. We need to push back with the real narrative. Because they're going to want their characters. They're going to want the merchandise for their characters. They're going to want... You type in Lord of the Rings in Google... Not Rings of Power, just type in Lord of the Rings into Google search, and you get their stuff popping up first, and that's what they want. And they want a world where they can just hijack the legacy and reputation and profitability and cultural influence that was created by Tolkien, and they just want to use it, spend $1 billion and steal all that influence and steal all that culture and steal all that clout. And we got to push back on that. Anyway, so yeah, steps 1 and 2. Push back on their nonsense. Step 2, research the truth of what Lord of the Rings really is. And I'll be going into details on those in later videos. But the next 2 steps are the big ones. The ones that I don't know if people are necessarily doing yet or are going to do. There's very specific, clear goals that I think will have a very specific, clear effect. But I can't do it on my own. It's only effective if we all work together. And it goes like this. Aside from just, downvoting the teaser trailers on YouTube or something like that, that's fine and all, but they don't care about that. If you want to influence the culture, if you want to reach the people who don't know yet why this is a controversy, people who don't understand, the people who are going to be told that, oh, the critics are just racist or something, we have to reach out to those people. We have to, we're up against a $1 billion marketing campaign, okay? So, But there's already a huge movement on YouTube and other social media platforms of people complaining and talking, etc. Okay, that's good. That's a good start. But we got to invade territory, okay? For example, the reaction videos. There's a huge subgenre of YouTube about reaction videos. There's watching people watch movies, etc. And about a year ago, got totally hooked on watching people react to Lord of the Rings. You know, everyone I know has already seen it, so I get to go online and find all these people who are watching it for the first time, or at least allegedly watching it for the first time, whatever the case may be. And it's a fun experience. And every time they do, they get, of course, all the Tolkien fans show up and upvote their videos, and they love it. And so there's hundreds and probably thousands of people doing reaction videos to Lord of the Rings, the original Lord of the Rings movies, and they're getting lots of connected to the fan base. Well, we have to reach out to those people. If you haven't already seen those kind of videos, you haven't looked at the reaction videos, go check out YouTube. Check them out. There's lots of them. Check out their channel, subscribe to them, upvote their videos, tell them about how you love Tolkien. Tell them about how you love Lord of the Rings, what the Lord of the Rings really is, what it means to you, and more importantly, for the current situation, tell them why you're not going to watch not going to watch Rings of Power. Tell them why. Tell them the truth directly. Reach out to these people directly. Explain to them why the Rings of Power is not legitimate. Because they're going to be told through all the mainstream channels that, oh, this is totally legit, this is wonderful, and people complain. Again, they're going to use the damn minorities as human shields. They're going to say, oh, if people are complaining, it's because they're racist. Oh, if someone complains about this, it's just because they don't like black hobbits. You know, it's smokescreen. It's just deflection. They're totally rewriting Tolkien with this stuff, and they need that explained to them directly. And this is what you reach out to people who are doing reaction videos. There's multiple effects it's going to have. One, a lot of those people who are just watching Lord of the Rings for the sake of their streaming channel, they're going to get educated. They're going to hear. Because they're already connecting. These people are small timers, okay? The upvotes and downvotes matter to them. Amazon doesn't care if you download their stuff, but these people doing reaction channels, it matters to them. So they're going to listen to you. Go to them. Upvote their Lord of the Rings videos. Subscribe to their channels. Tell them why you like Lord of the Rings. Tell them why you don't like Rings of Power. Help them understand. And now here's the next. This is important. I'm not asking you to harass them, okay? Because they're probably a lot of them are gonna watch Rings of Power, and people who do reaction videos, they're even if they don't necessarily like the show, they're probably gonna pretend to like the show for the sake of the fans, well, who they perceive to be the fans. Do not harass these people, okay? We're already under a slander campaign trying to make people who complain about Rings of Power look bad. So, and yeah, they're gonna try to call us all sorts of names. So don't go to these people's channels harassing them. Do not validate this theory that, oh, people who complain are just trolls. Be polite, be respectful. Tell them why you care. Why you don't like Rings of Power. Why you do like the real Lord of the Rings. Why those two things are, in fact, different things. And hey, they have a right. But you know what? If they like Rings of Power, they watch it and they like it, that's fine. They have a right to. I'm not going to watch those reaction videos. And it's a mercy to not watch those videos, because if I did watch them, I'd be obligated to downvote them. And I don't want to sink somebody's channel just because they watched a show I didn't like. I just won't watch it. But you know what? If you watch it, hey, you have a right to downvote if you want to. But my point is, I'm asking, don't harass them. Just explain to them why you don't want to see that content. And if when they start get downvotes or they start losing views, they'll respond, and that's where we start reaching the culture. Because then people will realize, oh wait, they can't just follow what the corporate media dangles in front of their face. Because that's what the billionaires count on. They think they can just buy loyalty, okay? And all the people are just going to follow whatever they're told to do. But you know what? Like I said, reach out to the people directly. Yeah. And that, of course, brings me to step 4. Cancel Amazon. Yeah, they may not care about some downvotes, but if we all talk about their show, we all watch their show anyway, even if it's just to complain about it, well, they still get their views, they still get what they want, but even if the show doesn't get a lot of views, like I said, they don't need our views really that much. But if you cancel Amazon, they're releasing that Rings of Power on the anniversary of Tolkien's death. If that's not some sort of clue that this is not just creative differences to them that this is a death of Tolkien, a replaceable of his legacy. On September 2nd, I am canceling my Amazon Prime account. And I will, if we can have millions of people download their teaser trailers, imagine if those million people canceled Amazon subscriptions on September 2nd. Imagine that, losing millions of subscriptions on September 2nd. They will get the message. They will get that might make a response from them. Because as long as all we do is just chatter online, they don't care. Like I said, they have a right to make whatever movies they want. They bought the legal rights. But we have the right not to watch. We have the right to unsubscribe. And love or hate our society and how it works, in a capitalist society, billionaires have excessive amounts of power. The only way people can fight back is through the pocketbook by canceling subscriptions. And it takes everyone doing it together. But imagine the message that would send to them if it's not just the show flops, but the platform starts to tank. Even if it's just for a month, even if it's just for a week. Cancel your subscription. Cancel your subscription. Resubscribe later, I get it. Amazon offers some things y'all still want, whatever. But we have to find a way to make them listen. That we're not going to tolerate Tolkien being treated like this. He's not comic books. He's not just some sort of IP you can buy, and you cannot, most importantly of all, you cannot buy the love and loyalty of fans. You cannot just appropriate and steal somebody else's legacy and just take their fame and walk away with it. I don't care how many millions of dollars you got. What Tolkien created was priceless. And this is the last stand. This is it. I mean, if they can just walk away with this, what's left in our culture that isn't owned and controlled by corporate media? I mean, after that, the fantasies are gone. Okay, fiction is controlled. At that point, what's left? I guess I'll just go rewrite the Bible next, right? I mean, because once all fiction is under control, all that's left is to rewrite reality too. Which, they're already working on that, but that's a whole other channel. We won't get into that here. But this is it. This is Tolkien's last stand. The free peoples of the earth versus corporate tyranny. Who's in charge? Let's find out.